The Buffalo Bills' initial 53-man roster for the $2 million event E5 season is finally here, and it's already setting the tone for what promises to be one of the most intriguing years of the McDermott Bean era. This isn't just about depth charts and position battles anymore. This is about identity. This is about who the Buffalo Bills are choosing to be heading into a season where expectations are sky high, questions are mounting, and every single decision will be under the microscope. From the moment cutdown day arrived, you could feel it. This roster wasn't just assembled, it was curated. Every name, every omission, every surprise telling a part of the story of what this team is becoming. Let's start where it all begins, the quarterback room. No surprise here. Josh Allen and Mitch Trubisky are the guys. That's been the plan, and it's stuck. But behind them, it gets interesting. Mike White and Shane Buechele were both let go, and now the Bills are left with a decision. If they can bring one, or even both, back on the practice squad, who do they choose? Buechele fits the mold of a long-term developmental guy, someone who's already been holding that scout team quarterback role, simulating the opposition for the defense all week long. That's not a glamorous job, but it's crucial. Mike White, on the other hand, was legitimately in the mix for the backup role. He came in trying to compete with Trubisky and bring some real juice to the room. So if both clear waivers and the Bills get to pick, that's going to be a fascinating glimpse into where this staff values potential versus preparedness. Either way, this decision won't just affect who's holding a clipboard on Sundays. It could shape the Bills' contingency plans deep into the season if things go sideways at quarterback. Moving into the backfield, we get a mix of expected choices and a few emotional tugs. James Cook is locked in as RB1, and behind him, Ray Davis and Ty Johnson round out the running back group alongside fullback Reggie Gilliam. Again, nothing shocking there, but fans will definitely feel the sting seeing Frank Gore Jr. cut, especially after another strong preseason. This is a guy who's won hearts in Buffalo, not just because of his name, but because of how hard he runs, how smart he plays, and how badly he seems to want it. But here's the reality. Unless another team grabs him for their active roster, there's a very real shot the Bills bring him back to the practice squad. And that feels likely. Teams are always looking for that one extra runner, but they're rarely in the business of grabbing a third or fourth stringer from someone else's room and throwing him right onto the 53. So yes, it's a bit of goodbye, but it might only be temporary. Buffalo's hoping to stash him, and if they do, fans can breathe a little easier. Then there's wide receiver. And here's where the real drama begins. The Bills surprise a lot of people by keeping 6, and the 6th name on that list is the headline, Tyrell Shavers. After spending 2 years on the practice squad, Shavers finally broke through with a camp and preseason that made it impossible for the staff to ignore him. He didn't sneak onto this roster, he forced his way onto it. Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Josh Palmer, Curtis Samuel, Elijah Moore, those guys were expected. But Shavers? He earned it. And not just with catches, but with everything he brings on special teams, with his frame, his vertical ability, his boundary presence. He offers something unique, something the Bills don't have in abundance, a long, fast outside guy who can make contested catches and help in multiple phases. In a world where McDermott constantly preaches that everything is earned, Shavers is the living proof. He's the kind of guy who, just a year ago, might have been a long shot. Today, he's one of 6 who made the cut. And now, the next question becomes, what role can he carve out on Sundays? Can he leapfrog a guy like Elijah Moore when it comes to game day actives because of what he adds to special teams? That battle is just getting started, and it's going to be a good one. At tight end, no surprises. Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, and rookie Jackson Ha are your trio. That's what most expected coming into camp. Kincaid and Knox are clearly the 1-2 punch, and Ha did exactly what he needed to do in the preseason to validate the pick and cement himself as tight end 3. The guys that didn't make it, Matt Soul, Key Lou, Zach Davidson, they were always facing an uphill battle. But this room is locked in now. Kincaid's growth from year 1 to year 2 is going to be a major storyline this season, and Knox's ability to stay healthy and productive behind him will be key. Ha, for now, plays the support role, but with his blocking ability and upside, he may find the field sooner than people think. All told, the offensive skill positions are fairly chalk with one notable exception, and it's Shavers. He's the fun story on this side of the ball, and the kind of guy you root for, because when someone grinds it out on the practice squad for 2 years, finally gets a chance and seizes it, that's what this league is all about. Now let's get into the trenches, where things really start to get layered. On the offensive line, the Bills kept 9, including the 5 expected starters: Deion Dawkins, David Edwards, Connor McGovern, Osiris Torrance, and Spencer Brown. That group is set. But behind them, we've got Alec Anderson, Ryan Van DeMark, Chase Lunt, and Cedric Van Pran-Granger. Here's what's fascinating. Cedric Van Pran-Granger didn't play a snap in preseason. He missed the entirety of training camp. But instead of stashing him on the PUP list, the Bills activated him and gave him a roster spot. That tells you something very important. This team believes in him. Despite the lack of reps, despite the missed time, they said, yeah, he's one of our guys. That kind of move speaks volumes about where the staff sees his ceiling and his readiness to contribute. Then there's Chase Lunt. He likely makes the roster because Tylen Grable is dealing with a long concussion recovery. Grable lands on IR designated to return, and in his absence, Lunt steps in. That's your domino effect. But when Grable's ready to come back, don't be surprised if Lunt is the one who gets waived and hopefully stashed back on the practice squad. The rest of the cuts here, guys like Dan Feeney, Kendrick Green, those are names you'd like to see brought back for veteran depth, if possible. Especially someone like Feeney, who could offer a steady hand if injuries pile up mid-season. And then there's Travis Clayton, who deserves a moment of recognition. A former rugby player from England, part of the NFL's International Pathway program, and someone who's still very much learning how to play football. Yet here he is, getting actual preseason snaps in just his second year ever playing the game. It's a long shot, sure, but it's an encouraging sign. And because of his international exemption, he can be the 17th man on the practice squad, giving the Bills a free development slot. No one's saying he's going to be a Pro Bowler, but the fact that he's progressing, that's a win in itself. The one concern? What happens when Larry Ogunjobi comes off suspension after 6 games? Someone's going to lose a spot. And the same goes for defensive end, where the Bills keep Greg Rousseau, Joey Bosa, A.J. Epineza, Landon Jackson, and Javon Solomon. Michael Hocht is suspended, and he'll also be coming back. So by mid-season, you're going to have to make some hard cuts because right now, both rooms are full. And that's what makes the first 6 weeks of the season so critical. These are just games, they're additions. They're live reps to decide who gets to stick around when the roster squeeze happens. Whether it's based on performance, injuries, or special teams contributions, these early weeks will shape the second half identity of this team. The edge group feels strong. Rousseau is your anchor. Bosa is your splash. Epineza is still ascending. Landon Jackson's raw but promising. Solomon is the curveball, the guy who made this team with explosive reps and a relentless motor. The cuts, Nelson Caesar, Parrish Shand, were expected, but don't be shocked if one or both finds their way onto the practice squad. There's an underlying theme here, one you can't miss. The Bills are not afraid to go young. They're not afraid to trust the unknown if it's paired with upside. That's evident all over this roster, from Shavers to Van Pran-Granger, from Solomon to Carter. This isn't about just surviving the season. It's about building something that can last. Let's pick things up with the linebacker room, a group that's seen more turnover and reshuffling over the last few seasons than almost any other unit on this Buffalo roster. This time around, the Bills go with 5, and for once, it feels like the right number. For years, there's been this trend of Buffalo hanging on to 6 linebackers, even when the 6th never saw meaningful snaps. This year, the staff trims the fat and focuses on guys who can contribute right away. Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano, Dorian Williams, Joe Andre, and the surprise addition, Shaq Thompson, make up the core. And let's pause for a second on Thompson, because that name may not have popped off the screen when it was first added to the roster post-draft, but he might be one of the most important under-the-radar signings of the offseason. He came into camp and just steadily built momentum, proving that his experience, versatility, and leadership still have real value. The guy has worn the green up before. He's been the on-field play caller. He started in high-leverage games. And now he's providing veteran depth and insurance for a linebacker group that, while talented, doesn't have a ton of in-game seasoning behind Bernard and Milano. Thompson's presence on the roster signals something else too. This staff isn't willing to risk going light on brains in a position that requires constant adjustments. With Thompson in the mix, you have three players, Milano, Bernard, and Thompson, who can communicate, diagnose, and lead the defense. That matters, especially with a defensive unit that's built around flexibility and reaction. Now, of course, cuts came along with this decision. Guys like Jimmy Charlo, Edwin Yolojo, and Keenan Jenkins are out, for now. There's a good chance at least one of them comes back on the practice squad, especially Yolojo, who was a fifth-round pick just a year ago. But the message here is clear. There are no handouts, not even for draft picks. If you're not producing, if you're not earning it in camp and in the preseason, you're out. Switching over to the secondary, the biggest headline is about who isn't starting the season on the active roster. That's Maxwell Hairston, who lands on injured reserve with a designation to return. He has to miss at least 4 games, which is a bummer, but maybe a blessing in disguise for the Bills. Hairston's camp was a mixed bag, flashes of brilliance followed by some growing pains. And now with this knee issue, he needs time. Not just to heal, but to refine. This gives him the window to do both. And in a perfect world, you get Hairston back mid-season, fully healthy, fully dialed in, and ready to unleash that elite ceiling everyone has been talking about. But his absence also reveals something promising, confidence in Tre'Davious White. Because if there were serious doubts about White's ability to go in Week 1, it's hard to imagine the Bills parting ways with Dane Jackson, a guy who started almost 30 games for this team in the last few seasons. The fact that Jackson was released tells us the staff believes White will be ready. That's a huge deal. We haven't had much clarity on his situation, other than vague statements about an MRI and the dreaded wait and see phrasing that always makes fans nervous. But when you let go of your most experienced insurance policy at outside corner, you're saying something loud and clear. Either White is ready, or someone else stepped up in a major way. So who's actually on the cornerback depth chart? Christian Benford, Taron Johnson, White himself, John Marcus Ingram, Dorian Strong, and Brandon Codrington. And if there's one name that's going to stir up debate in this group, it's Codrington. The guy has one elite trait, returnability. But outside of that, there are real limitations. He doesn't offer anything on defense, doesn't play other phases of special teams. He is quite literally just a returner. But he's the best returner the Bills have, and that's why he's here. In a season where special teams is going to play a massive role, especially with the new kickoff rules, you need a specialist. And while fans may wish he brought more to the table, the reality is that when the ball is in the air and you need someone back there with steady hands and explosive vision, he's the guy. Not Shakir, not Ty Johnson, not Ray Davis. It's Codrington. And that brings us to a question that hasn't fully been answered yet. What happens if White isn't ready for Week 1? Who's CB2 next to Benford? Is it Ingram? Is it Strong? Based on preseason snaps, Strong has the edge. He's been playing ahead of Ingram, and that usually signals depth chart positioning. But let's be real. Starting a rookie in Week 1 opposite Christian Benford is bold, and it tells us just how much faith the staff has in this guy's potential. He's long. He's physical. He plays with confidence. And if he gets the nod, it'll be because he earned it, not because there were no other options. Still, that's a matchup to watch as we get closer to kickoff against Baltimore. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. Whispers have begun to swirl around the Buffalo Bills organization following a recent and highly controversial decision by head coach Sean McDermott, who reportedly took the drastic step of expelling quarterback Mike White from the team. While the official statements remain carefully worded, sources close to the situation suggest that tensions between McDermott and White have been simmering for weeks, possibly months, culminating in a confrontation that could not be overlooked. Observers within the league are speculating about the exact nature of the incident, with some insiders hinting at a heated disagreement during practice that escalated beyond the usual locker room squabbles. The move has sent shockwaves through fans and analysts alike, who are struggling to reconcile the coach's stern disciplinary approach with the sudden removal of a player who, until recently, was considered a viable part of the team's quarterback rotation. The ripple effects are already being felt, with teammates reportedly expressing a mix of surprise and unease, unsure of how such a sudden shift in leadership and roster decisions will affect team morale. This development adds a layer of uncertainty to Buffalo's upcoming season, as questions now emerge not just about who will fill the quarterback position, but also about the overall stability and unity within the organization. The NFL community is watching closely, as McDermott's bold and public move raises both eyebrows and questions about the inner workings of a team that has long prided itself on discipline and cohesion. The story is far from settled, and every detail shared by those within the league seems to only deepen the intrigue surrounding the Bills' locker room dynamics. While fans clamor for clarity, the silence from the organization speaks volumes, leaving room for speculation, rumor, and a heightened sense of drama that could shape narratives for weeks to come. The atmosphere around the team has shifted overnight, transitioning from focused preparation for the season to a buzzing conversation about authority, player conduct, and the consequences of challenging leadership at the highest levels of professional football. The complexity of this situation is magnified by the public nature of the expulsion, raising questions not only about McDermott's leadership style, but also about how professional athletes navigate conflict and the boundaries of acceptable behavior within elite teams. Analysts are debating the potential long-term impacts on Buffalo's season, with some suggesting that the move could either galvanize the roster through a renewed sense of discipline or destabilize it if morale continues to fray under the strain of uncertainty and public scrutiny. Each passing day seems to add another layer to the narrative, feeding the rumor mill and keeping both fans and critics in a heightened state of anticipation. As the league observes quietly, the Bills situation serves as a cautionary tale about the delicate balance of power, respect, and accountability in the high-stakes world of professional football. The ripple effects of Mike White's sudden expulsion from the Buffalo Bills are extending far beyond the locker room, casting shadows over the team's strategic planning and forcing analysts to rethink predictions for the upcoming NFL season. Speculation is rampant regarding what precisely prompted Sean McDermott to take such an unprecedented step, with reports ranging from a heated altercation during practice to a broader pattern of behavior deemed incompatible with the team's culture. Teammates have reportedly been caught off guard, with insiders suggesting that some players are struggling to reconcile their support for White with loyalty to McDermott's leadership, creating a palpable tension that has yet to fully settle. Fans, too, are divided, with social media platforms becoming battlegrounds for debate over whether the expulsion reflects a necessary assertion of authority or an overreach that could harm the team's cohesion and performance. The timing of the decision has fueled additional speculation, particularly because it occurs just as the Bills are approaching critical preseason matchups where stability and trust in the quarterback position are paramount. Sports commentators are dissecting every public interaction and historical detail in an attempt to construct a narrative that explains the sudden rift, while some insiders caution that rushing to judgment could overlook deeper structural or interpersonal issues within the organization. The story is developing rapidly, with rumor and conjecture filling the gaps left by the team's measured public statements, amplifying the drama surrounding the decision. Questions abound about who will assume White's role and how McDermott plans to recalibrate both offensive strategy and team morale in the wake of the expulsion. Each new day brings a fresh round of analysis, with former players, coaches, and journalists weighing in on the potential consequences for both White's career and the Bills' trajectory, while the absence of official clarifications continues to fuel speculation. There are whispers of behind-the-scenes negotiations, private discussions with the player, and internal reviews of team conduct that remain entirely out of public view, but contribute to the sense that this is far from a simple personnel move. The narrative surrounding White's departure is being shaped as much by rumor and interpretation as by fact, creating a media landscape in which speculation drives conversation and every minor detail is magnified. Analysts are especially focused on McDermott's leadership philosophy, debating whether his approach is emblematic of a disciplined, no-nonsense coaching style or an excessively authoritarian approach that risks alienating key contributors. Meanwhile, fans are watching anxiously, as the unfolding situation may redefine the dynamics of one of the league's most closely followed franchises, with long-term implications for team chemistry, public perception, and competitive success. Industry insiders are increasingly framing Sean McDermott's decision to expel Mike White from the Buffalo Bills as a defining moment in the coach's career, one that could either underscore his reputation for strict leadership or provoke criticism for handling a delicate situation too aggressively. Sources within the league hint that the conflict between McDermott and White was not an isolated incident, but part of a series of escalating tensions, suggesting that the coach's tolerance for dissent or perceived insubordination may have reached its limit. The expulsion has ignited discussions about the power dynamics inherent in professional football, where the balance between authority and collaboration can determine both individual and team success. Observers note that while McDermott has historically maintained a disciplined environment, the public nature of this decision has amplified its impact, raising questions about transparency, fairness, and the management of high-profile players. Fans are speculating endlessly, attempting to piece together fragments of information from social media posts, practice reports, and insider commentary to understand what led to such a drastic measure. Analysts have begun to explore hypothetical scenarios regarding team performance without White, questioning how offensive schemes, quarterback depth, and team morale may adjust under pressure. Meanwhile, the NFL rumor mill is in overdrive, with every practice, interview, or unexplained absence being scrutinized for clues about ongoing tensions. Teams across the league may interpret the expulsion as either a cautionary tale or a signal of the player's unmet potential within a rigid system. Speculation extends beyond the immediate team, with commentators pondering how this event might influence future contract negotiations, player recruitment, and organizational culture within Buffalo. Meanwhile, the emotional undercurrents among the roster are considered a critical factor, as players navigate loyalty, ambition, and uncertainty simultaneously, all under the glare of public attention. The media frenzy around this story is feeding itself, with each new rumor or report prompting further analysis, while official statements remain carefully crafted to provide minimal detail, thereby sustaining the aura of mystery. The situation embodies the tension between authority and individuality in professional sports, illustrating how a single decision by a coach can reverberate through an entire franchise and across a league, creating an enduring topic of speculation, debate, and intrigue. The sudden removal of Mike White from the Buffalo Bills has sparked a complex and layered discussion within NFL circles, highlighting the challenges of managing high-stakes relationships in professional sports where personality, performance, and leadership intersect in unpredictable ways. Rumors suggest that the confrontation between White and Sean McDermott may have stemmed from a fundamental clash in approach or philosophy, though details remain tantalizingly vague, fueling speculation about both parties' motives and long-term intentions. Teammates reportedly feel a mixture of confusion, loyalty, and apprehension, navigating a shifting landscape in which leadership decisions are as scrutinized as on-field performance. Analysts have begun examining the potential ramifications for Buffalo's offensive strategy, debating whether the team can maintain competitive stability without White and how McDermott's decision might influence his authority over other players in the future. The timing of the expulsion has intensified the drama, occurring as preseason preparations and strategic planning were entering a critical phase, forcing coaches and players to adapt rapidly to an unforeseen challenge. Social media has become a crucible for fan speculation, with supporters dissecting every snippet of information, rumor, and historical precedent to understand what this sudden move might signify for the Bills' trajectory. Sports journalists are compiling narratives, some framing the decision as a necessary assertion of discipline, while others argue it reflects a risky overreach that could compromise team cohesion and performance. The ripple effects of McDermott's choice extend beyond Buffalo, as league observers monitor the unfolding situation for lessons on leadership, accountability, and the management of professional athletes under pressure. Every new report or insider comment adds to the uncertainty, making it difficult to separate verified facts from conjecture. Yet each contributes to a growing sense that the Bills are navigating a period of heightened tension and scrutiny. Analysts are particularly focused on how this event may influence White's market value and reputation, with potential implications for trades, free agency, and long-term career prospects. Rumors about behind-the-scenes negotiations, private discussions with the player, and internal disciplinary reviews suggest that the official narrative may be only a fraction of the story, keeping the rumor mill active and the public captivated. This unfolding saga illustrates the delicate balance between maintaining authority and fostering trust within elite teams, underscoring the complex dynamics that could define the success or failure of a franchise at the highest levels of competition. Fans, journalists, and league insiders alike remain engrossed, aware that the consequences of this episode could resonate for seasons to come, shaping narratives around leadership, accountability, and professional conduct in ways that are still emerging. The NFL community is abuzz with speculation and rumor following Sean McDermott's controversial decision to remove Mike White from the Buffalo Bills, as the coaching move is dissected from every possible angle by analysts, insiders, and fans alike. Questions about McDermott's leadership style, the specifics of the incident, and the broader impact on team cohesion dominate conversations, with every minor update potentially reshaping the narrative. Reports hint at a tense environment prior to the expulsion, with disagreements and clashes that may have been brewing behind closed doors for weeks, suggesting that the decision was the culmination of ongoing friction rather than a single spontaneous event. Observers are closely evaluating the consequences for the Bills' performance, particularly regarding quarterback depth, offensive execution, and morale, as the team navigates a critical period in preseason preparations. Fans have taken to social media to debate the justification of McDermott's action, weighing the importance of discipline against the potential fallout from removing a player so abruptly and publicly. Analysts speculate that the decision may serve as both a cautionary tale and a reinforcement of authority, signaling to current and future players that McDermott's standards are non-negotiable. Meanwhile, behind-the-scenes sources suggest that internal discussions, private meetings, and careful assessments of conduct were likely part of the process, though none of these details have been confirmed publicly, leaving ample room for rumor and conjecture. The media frenzy around this event reflects the broader fascination with the intersection of leadership, talent management, and personal dynamics within professional sports, highlighting how a single decision can reverberate across a franchise and the league. As speculation continues to mount, every practice, interview, and unexplained absence is scrutinized for potential clues about ongoing tensions, strategic adjustments, or reconciliation efforts. Commentators debate whether this bold move could galvanize the roster, instilling discipline and focus, or undermine trust, breeding uncertainty and hesitation among players. Simultaneously, questions about White's future persist, with league insiders considering how the expulsion might affect his career trajectory, potential interest from other teams, and long-term reputation within the sport. Each passing day seems to add new layers to the story, keeping analysts, fans, and commentators engaged in a continuous cycle of rumor, interpretation, and speculation that shows no sign of abating. The situation serves as a compelling case study in the delicate balance of authority, accountability, and interpersonal dynamics at the highest levels of professional football, demonstrating how a single moment can spark a chain reaction with far-reaching implications across an entire organization, shaping both immediate strategy and long-term narratives in ways that are as unpredictable as they are fascinating. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.